Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, Bolt fam? It's the Director. Chargers fans, man, we got our first primetime game coming up just in a couple of days, and this game is gonna be nuts. Like, guys, if we weren't all Chargers fans here, right, we didn't carry the bias, there wasn't all that hype behind us being fans of the team, this still would be one of those games that you, like, you know, make the trip out to Buffalo Wild Wings to catch with the boys. It's gonna be fireworks, man. It's gonna be a big one, and I do think it's gonna be one of the more exciting matchups that we've seen in the NFL so far. The Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs, they crushed the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday, what, 44-21? That's still a dangerous team, and as of right now, yeah, they're still at the top of the AFC West. But the Chargers, looking to dethrone the Chiefs this season, man, quite literally crushed Derek Carr, as well as the Raiders on Sunday, too, with a dominating and punishing defense. It's going to be exciting, man. What more could you ask in terms of narratives, right? The red-hot Chiefs offense versus the Chargers wrecking ball defense. It's going to be one of the most exciting games of the year so far. So this one also, dudes, again, we're going to get a lot into this as well. It's going to carry serious consequences for the Chargers as well as the AFC West division very early in the season. These are going to be the games that you go back and I'm like, man, that win or that loss could have been the difference maker in 2022. So before we do get started on this one, guys, as a reminder, we do have a giveaway going on right now. As a thank you from me to you guys, the supporters of the channel. We are giving away this signed Antonio Gates jersey. All you got to do to enter for this one is hit the link in the description, follow the instructions there, and make sure you are subscribed. Only subs can win. Good luck, guys. As always, we like to do giveaways in twos on this channel, so we're also giving away this signed LaDainian Tomlinson in the powder blue to one of my crew members. Again, as a thank you from me to you guys for supporting the channel. All you got to do to be entered for this one is be a member of my crew, and that's it. We'll be drawing a winner here in the next couple of weeks. So before we do kick off, like we always do, question in the comments. This is a pretty important one for you Chargers fans. Who was your most valuable player on the Chargers going into this game? E.g., who's going to give us the best chance at winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. Before we do kick off, guys, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers at Chiefs, week 2 game preview, and boy, man, like I mentioned, this is gonna be a big one. Very exciting matchup nonetheless, but as we always do in these videos, we are going to start with your injury report. Now, we are recording this video, it's like Tuesday morning here. We're still waiting to hear some more details and some of the statuses of some of these players, but as of right now, I'm going to give you an update of what we know. Then maybe we'll have the pinned comment in the comment section with any updates there, but there are some very important ones that do carry serious consequence into this week's matchup. Starting here with the Chargers, okay? Keenan Allen, of course, we all saw it. I'm sure a lot of us saw it live as well during the game. He was grabbing at that hammy. It looks like he is not going to be suiting up for this one. Of course, hamstring issues, or I should say hamstring injuries, are a very tricky issue, so we're not 100% sure of when he's going to return, but it sounds like it's not the most serious of hamstring injury at this point, so he should be back sooner than later, but it would have been really nice to have him on the squad in such an important early division matchup versus the Chiefs. So yeah, you can expect to not see Keenan Allen in this one. Underneath him, we have J.C. Jackson, who a lot of us were hoping to see in that Raiders game opening at SoFi Stadium. That did not happen, although he was running around the field. He was with the team during warm-ups. A lot of us were there thinking to ourselves, like, is this going to happen? Are we going to see 27 make his debut with the Bolts today? Ultimately, it did not happen. The Chargers did not practice on Monday, but if they did list these, players as they wouldn't have practiced anyway, including J.C. Jackson. I don't think I've heard anything about seeing him on the field today either. If I were a betting man, though, I would say that JC does have a decent shot at suiting up on Thursday. It would be very nice to see him at practice on Wednesday. Just that would be a very good indicator that it's going to happen. But from what I'm hearing right now, it's like a 50-50 shot that he does suit up. Lastly, I don't think Donald Parham was practicing today on Tuesday. Rashawn Slater and Drew Tranquil seem to be okay going into this one. Now, as for the Chiefs, because there are some pretty significant names on this list as well, we're going to wait and see what happens again as we learn more between Tuesday and Wednesday before the game. But there's some big names on here. Starting with Orlando Brown, they're starting, what is that, left tackle. That would be a pretty big loss. As of right now, I don't know too much about the injury. He is limited in practice. I would say it's probably more likely than not that he's going to suit up, but that is definitely one to monitor. After what we saw with the Chargers and that defense, the Chiefs would be looking, probably pretty scared without that left tackle. Underneath him, you've got kicker Harrison Butker, who I do think has an ankle injury at this point. And from what I'm hearing, it sounds like Butker's going to be out for this game, which again, I mean, Harrison Butker is one of the better kickers in the NFL. That could change things in terms of how the Chiefs look on special teams. Maybe they sign a guy, before Thursday's game, but not having your star kicker, that could carry some consequences into that one. Patrick Mahomes did land on the injury report as well. It does say he would have, or maybe he did practice in full. As far as I know, I've heard it was some sort of, again, wrist injury, maybe some soreness, but again, probably not too serious. Some of the bigger ones on here, though, Trent McDuffie, the first round cornerback, one that I was very, very high on. He landed on the IR, which means he's going to be out at least the next 4 weeks. He will not be playing the Chargers, which is a bummer. I mean, again, he's a Kansas City Chief, dirty Chiefs, whatever. But yeah, I like Trent McDuffie, the player. I hope he's back sooner than later. But it's going to be one the Chargers don't have to worry about this week. Underneath that, you got Justin Reed, who's been practicing in full, Gray Smith, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Watson. These are the guys to be monitoring for the Chiefs. Of course, probably the biggest names to monitor, Orlando Brown, Patrick Mahomes, Trent McDuffie is out. So keep that in mind as we get closer and closer to Thursday's game. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of the video, some of the topics that I want to hit in this matchup because, of course, again, right now, if you take a look at the AFC West rankings, you're going to see the Chargers at number 1, who do have a division win under their belts. You're going to probably see the Chiefs at number 2, who had a crushing win over Arizona. And then both the Raiders and Broncos lost their games, one to the Chargers, of course, and the other to the Seattle Seahawks, the Geno Smith, a.k.a. Brett Favre-led Seattle Seahawks. Kind of crazy. This whole AFC West is starting to provide roots in different directions in terms of narratives. Kind of crazy. But in that narrative, too, I kind of wanted to go over, some of the things that you want to take a look at in this game in particular, because it really does feel, as of right now, the Chargers and the Chiefs are going to be butting heads as to who takes control of the AFC West. And what better test than an early matchup here in Week 2? If the Chargers take the win here, that would give them 2 solid division wins, firmly placing them in first place of the division for at least a little while. It's a pretty big leg up on the competition. They end up losing this game. Of course, they're going to drop down to second place, still have a division win, but also a division loss. And, of course, we'll have to see what happens on Sunday with the rest of the teams. Either way, big game, big consequences. Let's get into the first topic of this video. And I'm actually going to answer my own question from the top of the video with this first topic. If you guys remember, I asked you guys, who is your most valuable player for the Chargers going into this game? Now, this doesn't take anything away from Justin Herbert, the superstar quarterback. I want to start by saying that right now, okay? Justin Herbert, of course, he's going to be the MVP pick for a lot of people, and that's absolutely warranted. He's definitely one of the most important players on this team, if not the most important. But me personally, I'm going to go with Derwin James on this one. I think Derwin's going to be my most valuable player in the game, at least, me from my perspective. In this segment, we're going to call Do It All Derwin. The Chiefs, if you take a look at your division opponent this way, right, you have to recognize and respect who they are. All of us here are Chargers fans. We don't want to be complimenting the Chiefs if we don't have to, but this is more in terms of recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of your opponent. And the Kansas City Chiefs, very good team with a very dangerous offense, okay? And that's going to lead me to tell you guys that they're going to score. As much as I would love to tell you guys that the Chiefs are not going to score on this Chargers dominant defense, they're going to score. It's going to happen. I view the Raiders as a very good offense. They still got on the scoreboard. I view the Chiefs as a better offense. They're going to score with Patrick Mahomes. There's really no way around it. But the question is, by how much, right? How much are we going to let Patrick Mahomes score on us with this brand new transformed defense? And that's why Derwin is going to be my most valuable player of this game, at least going into it in my perspective, okay? And there's several reasons for this. One, when you take a look at the Chiefs this season, right, they lost Tyreek Hill and a couple other weapons. They look a little bit different on offense. Did that really matter versus the Arizona Cardinals? Not really. They still stomped them 44-21. But when you take a look at those weapons individually, it does seem that one does stand out, and his name is Travis Kelce, their superstar tight end. And he was by far and away the most dangerous weapon for Patrick Mahomes. He popped off for 121 yards and 8 catches with a touchdown. It's pretty evident that they have at least a weapon that stands above the rest out there in Kansas City. He's going to be one that the Chargers definitely need to monitor. Now, when it comes to Derwin James, we know that I think, that matchup, we stand a much better chance with Derwin in the lineup than with not being in the lineup. We've seen games in the past that Derwin is more than capable of shutting him down. There were games, as a matter of fact, where we saw Derwin in the game, Travis Kelce not really doing much, and then Derwin having to step off the field, and then Kelce kind of going off. That's the difference that a Derwin James can make in this game. Again, against the Kansas City Chiefs that doesn't have Tyreek Hill. The other weapons, although Patrick Mahomes has been spreading the ball around, are not as dominant as Travis Kelce. If we've got his weakness, if we've got his kryptonite in Derwin James, in which we can take away 80% of his production, that is very significant to helping the Chargers' chances and not letting Patrick Mahomes and their offense go crazy. But what's even more crazy about Derwin James, in my opinion, why he's going to be my MVP, is that what he can do beyond covering Travis Kelce that's got me pumped. Sure, that's going to be his main assignment for the most part, right? We saw plenty of it in Week 1 versus Darren Waller. Derwin James stick to Darren Waller, make sure he can't convert. But when he's not asked to do that, he's going to be asked to be pretty much anywhere, right? We saw him literally everywhere on the field on Sunday versus the Raiders, off the edge, in the slot, in the box, everywhere. I saw him at points, covering Hunter Renfrow in the slot. I saw at some points him covering Devontae Adams and sticking to him like glue. It's that unpredictability that gives me all the faith in Derwin that he could be the difference maker in this one versus Patrick Mahomes. As good as Patrick Mahomes is, there are literally no other players like Derwin James in the league, at least not being utilized the way he is at such a high level wherever he's lined up. And for that, I think Derwin could provide an unpredictable, let's say, ace up the sleeve, ace in the hole that could tilt even a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. I think Derwin, the effect that he has on this game, whether it be in pass rush, over the middle in coverage, sticking to Travis Kelce, he's going to be a very important aspect to whether or not the Chargers can grab a win in this one. Next up in this next topic, turnovers will likely decide the game. This is big. Pretty evident, right? Off the surface, you guys know where I'm going to be going with this. This is going to be a firefight. No matter which way you cut it, the Chargers versus Chiefs, the two teams that have been assembled over the last couple of seasons, you are going to see some points scored on Thursday. And the Chargers are going to maybe need a little bit of help to keep up with Patrick Mahomes, because I do know Patrick, we respect your opponent, you understand their strengths. Mahomes is going to put up points. It's going to be a firefight. And the Chargers are going to have to keep up with it, including Justin Herbert. But ultimately, I think this game's going to be determined by the number of possessions because of how good both offenses are. The Chargers are going to need it, right? As they're going to need to find a rhythm offensively. What I'm trying to get to here is that the Chargers offensively versus the Raiders, who let's say have an okay defense, not the best one. They had a great pass rush, maybe on the defensive back category, right? They were not able to capitalize on every turnover. They weren't able to capitalize on every offensive drive. A lot of stalled drives, whether it be by play design or mistakes or drops or whatever by the players. They needed to capitalize better, and that's going to be something we do touch on here in just a little bit. The Chiefs, however, though, after putting up 44 points versus Arizona, they've proven that they can capitalize on pretty much every drive, and that's why I think turnovers are going to be so crucial. The Chargers do have an advantage in this game, in my opinion. That's their defense, right? The Chargers forced 3 turnovers versus the Raiders. They also added 2 forced fumbles. The Chiefs did not force a turnover. But to be fair, they didn't really need to, because they were just scoring up and down the field left and right with Patrick Mahomes. And so if the Chargers can help give themselves, let's say, an edge in the category of maybe they do log a pick or two, maybe they do get a pick by Callahan or Asante Samuel or whatever, to add another possession for Justin Herbert, that's going to close the gap in terms of our efficiency on offense. And I do think we can absolutely improve the efficiency with the better play calling. But above all the rest, I want to see more opportunities for Justin Herbert to keep up with Patrick Mahomes in the scorebox, if that kind of makes sense, okay? And this is why the status of a J.C. Jackson becomes that much more important. Because we already have playmakers, right? Just like you're seeing in this photo, both these guys logged a pick on Sunday. Bryce Callahan and Asante Samuel Jr. Drew Tranquill, linebacker, also logged a pick. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack also logged forced fumbles. We've got those pieces on the team right now, so I'm feeling pretty good about it right now. But J.C. Jackson entering the fold, that could really take us over the top. If the Chargers get 2-3 more possessions than the Chiefs due to the efforts of our defensive playmakers, it could be just enough to take us over the top over Mahomes and that firepower offense. If the Bolts can give Herbert an extra possession or two, it could be just enough to keep us ahead of Mahomes. Is kind of what I'm trying to get to in that. So turnovers are going to be huge, and the Chargers fortunately have the defense to make that happen. Next topic here. Lombardi Do Better. Of course, we had our criticisms. We're Chargers fans. We want to see this team perform at, top efficiency every single week. And one of the criticisms we did have was to our offensive coordinator and Joe Lombardi. Now, of course, as I was talking with the turnover ratio, that whole, segment there, we did mention that the Chargers maybe not as efficient on offense as they could have been. That doesn't take away from our offensive playmakers, right? Justin Herbert was electric against the Raiders. No doubt about that. But a lot of what I saw that I had problems with was out of his control. A lot of us questioned many of the decisions made on offense by Joe Lombardi. The play calling was a bit soft, especially once the Chargers gained the lead. And if you're a Chargers fan, you are not unfamiliar with this whole concept. The Chargers get the lead, and then what happens? We see what runs on first and second down, bubble screens, just very conservative play calling. And it doesn't feel like that's the way you're going to beat teams like, let's say, the Raiders, especially the Kansas City Chiefs. Beyond that, too, it was kind of perplexing to see that our biggest weapons were not featured. Mike Williams and Austin Eckler, they had quiet days versus the Raiders. And they were two of those guys where you're looking at the Raiders defense, you're like, man, these are the kryptonite dudes. These are the dudes that you want to feature and really pound the Raiders defense with. We didn't see very much of them. This could also be due to Keenan Allen exiting early. Maybe the whole strategy behind that game on Sunday was to get Keenan Allen featured. I think he had 2 catches for something like 60 yards. He was insane early before exiting. But I do feel like once he went down, we should have been able to, insert Josh Palmer and fill it flawlessly. Keep going on with that same plan. That's not really what happened. So my point here is the offensive game plan is going to need to be much, much more aggressive versus a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. Because I view the Raiders as a solid offensive team. I really do, whichever way you slice it. Even with Derek Carr, they've got Devontae Adams, who's kind of the heart and soul of that offense right now. They got Darren Waller. They got Hunter Renfrow. They got so many weapons on offense. They're a good, solid team on offense. But in my mind, the Kansas City Chiefs are just better because of Patrick Mahomes. And as much as I believe in our defense, we're going to need to start and remain aggressive throughout the entire game. Keep your foot on the gas is something that we say all the time. You can't soften up after you get the lead because a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, he's going to catch you. The Chiefs understood this week 1 versus the Cardinals. They scored, 14 points in the first quarter. Did they ever let up? No, not even a little bit, man. Eventually, they dropped a 40-burger on Arizona, who is also known as being, let's say, an offensively potent team. Kyler Murray and that team, they can move the football. But Patrick Mahomes and that offense never gave him a shot at it. And that's why I think the Chargers need to fight fire with fire here a little bit. Remain aggressive. Never take your foot off the gas. Stop playing so conservatively. And I'm sure Joe Lombardi knows this. I just hope that we see it happen in game and we see it right off the bat, right off the jump, right? We need to see that aggressiveness, snap 1, play 1, drive 1, and we need to see it throughout the entirety of each 4 quarters in that game. Long story short, stay aggressive, Joe Lombardi. Be a little bit more creative in featuring your biggest weapons in Mike Williams and Austin Eckler in this one, but do not let your foot off the gas. That's what's going to bite you in the end. So speaking of that offense, Justin and the offense, the next segment here. If you're a Chargers fan, I'm going to throw some fun stuff at you. You got to be excited about this track record, okay? Herbert's track record going to this one is pretty promising. First off, this is a primetime game. And I'm sure you guys have heard some stats like this similarly before, but in 6 primetime games for Justin Herbert, you want to know the stats? Herbert has 1,801 yards, 17 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions. You can also tack on top of that 133 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's pretty dang good in prime time, man. 6 primetime games, and he's looking like a superstar. But I think the cherry on top is that also Justin Herbert has never been defeated in Arrowhead. He is undefeated versus the Chiefs on their home turf, for whatever that's worth, okay? And I do think that counts for something. Justin Herbert, we know when the lights are on, when in enemy territory, something just clicks inside of him and it becomes, the Super Saiyan version of himself, a.k.a. Dan Fouts. He looks just so freaking good. And, even with the Chargers missing guys like Keenan Allen this week, I do think we got the playmakers to continue that trend with Justin Herbert. I hope we see a lot of Mike Williams, right? And when we're talking about these track record players, Mike Williams also has a great track record versus the Chiefs on the road. Williams, his last 2 games versus the Chiefs at Arrowhead, 230 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's insane. That's pure insanity. when it comes to your best weapon for Justin Herbert, it feels like it's going to be Mike Williams, who's kind of had the reputation among Chargers fans as being that biggest weapon versus the Chiefs, the Hulkbuster that you take into battle to take down the Thanos Mahomes. And I do feel like, or we should even say at this point, Stormbreaker, right? The big old axe wielded by a Justin Herbert Thor. It feels like if we're going down that nerdy path, that feels very appropriate. And I think Mike Williams needs to be featured in the game plan this week if your name is Joe Lombardi. Definitely worth featuring. I also hope on the offense that we see more Austin Eckler utilized this game, right? The Chargers struggled to get the run game going last week, and I think that's something that the Chiefs are going to try and work against us. But Eckler, in my opinion, when the run game's not working, Eckler's the kind of player that's immune to that situation. No, you don't take out Eckler because the run is struggling to develop. You get Eckler more involved, and this time through the air. When Eckler fails to find space on the ground, you know what you want to do? You want to start taking, those passes underneath. Make him available underneath Justin Herbert, because he will take that opportunity if he doesn't see anything deeper out on the field, right? With Eckler out wide or underneath or whatever, he will always take the short pass, the safe pass to Austin Eckler to try and gain yards. But the difference between Austin Eckler and, let's say, any other player in the NFL at the running back position is that Eckler, in my opinion, is capable of 5 to 10 yards every single play, no matter what. When he has a little bit of space, he's getting 5 to 10 yards. And that's where I felt he was missed the most on Sunday. Not that he was a little inefficient on the ground. Of course, you would like to see more efficiency on the ground, but it is what it is. But when you're struggling as a team to establish a run game, you don't take out your star player and say, well, okay, we'll try something else through the air. We'll get Austin Eckler involved here and there. It's like, no, you keep Austin Eckler involved and featured as one of your best offensive weapons. You just do it in a different way. And it just so happens that it's another strength of this player in particular. He is one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. I want to see him featured as often as possible. So outside of these two guys, Austin Eckler and Mike Williams, I do feel very confident that the Chargers have plenty of weapons to get through this without Keenan Allen, right? I'm confident in Palmer, in DeAndre Carter, in Gerald Everett. These guys will keep drives alive, healthy, and consistent. But like I mentioned, no matter who you got out there, right, it's going to be very, very important that the Chargers remain aggressive. The Chargers have an extremely promising defense. I get that. A punishing defense. But their offense is going to have to help them out this week, right? They did not help them out as much as they could have versus the Raiders in week 1. The difference is Patrick Mahomes, they're going to catch up behind you a lot quicker than the Vegas Derek Carr-led Raiders. That's just kind of what it is. So whoever you got out there, whoever you're putting your faith in, whoever you're scheming around to feature on offense this week, make sure it's aggressive. Make sure it's aggressive and it's consistent throughout the entire game. Lastly, last topic I want to hit on here before we close this thing out. A crack in the armor. Okay? Now the Chargers, when we're talking about facing the Kansas City Chiefs specifically, right? They do possess a kryptonite to factor into Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They do have a weakness, right? The Chiefs do have a weakness. Everybody has a weakness, right? And it's going to be the same weakness that we're going to see versus a lot of other teams in the NFL, and that's what the Chargers possess on defense. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are absolute game wreckers. And they proved it, especially Khalil Mack. He proved it on Sunday. This duo combined were 4.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. These guys were maniacs out there. It felt borderline unfair to the Raiders, their offensive line, Derek Carr, and their wah-wah fans when it comes to Khalil Mack and how wrong they were about him being washed up. These guys are the real deal, man. These guys are the genuine article. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack just may be the best pass rushing duo in the NFL. And much like any other quarterback in the league, it's hard for these players to gain momentum with consistent pressure in their faces. And Patrick Mahomes is no exception. We've seen games with the Chargers, even without Khalil Mack, where Bosa's impact has stalled drives for Patrick Mahomes, maybe even stalled confidence. I started seeing balls thrown into the dirt and out of bounds, and that was just with Joey Bosa. You throw Khalil Mack in the mix there too. Whew. We may have something here, man. We may just be able to buy Herbert enough time to sprint ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Khalil Mack, man. I mean, just off of what we saw last week, he's off to a monstrous start. It feels like his addition to the team, right? That whole move, it was a big part of getting after the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and derailing them, dethroning them as the kings of the AFC West. To take down the Chiefs, you're going to have to get to Patrick Mahomes, and that's going to require 2 players of the highest caliber coming off the edge. And the Chargers, as of today, looks like they may have 2 of the best in the NFL doing just that. The Chiefs O-line, let's just say not as suspect as the Raiders, right? The Raiders' offensive line is pretty bad. But even that being said, is that going to matter, right? Is it going to matter? I don't know. At the end of the day, Orlando Brown, right? Who is questionable, by the way. We're going to be monitoring that. It will be him or what's his name, Jaron Christian. You're going to have Andrew Wiley. Are we feeling, worried about those guys holding down Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa for the whole game? No, we're not. They're going to get theirs. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, they're going to create pressure. They're going to get sacks. It's bound to happen, and that could be the difference that tilts this for the Chargers in terms of disrupting the rhythm of that Kansas City Chiefs offense. Sure, their interior of their line looks a little bit better as far as their offensive line for the Chiefs, but I don't know if it's going to matter. The Chargers got some really good interior pass rushers as well. I think Morgan Fox also tallied a half a sack in that game too. Either way, you got those guys coming off the edge, and then every once in a while, you're going to throw a wrench into the machine like Derwin too, right? Derwin James could blitz off of that X position we talk so much about. You have Kyle Van Noy, who, again, I understand he made a mistake last week in allowing that touchdown to Bolden, their running back, but it doesn't matter. I saw so many good plays from Van Noy as well, blitzing up the middle from the inside linebacker position. He was very effective when asked to do something like that as well. Things could get messy for the Chiefs very, very quickly when you already have to worry about Bosa and Mack, and then you got guys like Van Noy, Derwin, Tranquil, and even Kenneth Murray coming at you as well. This is what I think the Chargers defense was built to do, to create chaos, and chaos will ensue. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes, even the great Patrick Mahomes, will be good enough to overcome something like that. So finally, guys, I feel like the Chargers' best chance at winning this game is going to be on the back of their defense, of course. That's why we talk so much about Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, and their effectiveness in this game, and Derwin James, who may just be the MVP of this game, at least for me, going into it, okay? But I also think it's going to take a very clean, consistent game by their offense. Of course, you got to score points to beat the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes specifically, right? You're going to have to keep up with them. And that is where I'm thinking, okay, that could be where things go wrong for the Chargers. Will it? I think the chances of it are much lower than they are, derailing themselves. I think the Chargers offense has proven that they're a top 5 unit from last season. They have some cleaning up to do. Joe Lombardi has some more homework to do and more efficiency in getting aggressive. But I do think the Chargers offense is all there. The pieces are all there. It just depends on what Joe Lombardi does with it. If he can call a clean game, a consistent game, a brave game, an aggressive game, then I think the Chargers' efficient offense and dominant defense could be just enough to take them over the top versus the Chiefs, okay? So like we do at the end of every single video, I'm going to give you guys a score prediction. Again, me spitballing here. I think I was off by like 3 points with the last one. The Chargers ended up winning that game versus the Raiders. So who knows? All right, who knows? The director's magic powers commence. My score prediction for this one is going to be Chargers 31. Again, it's going to be a firefight. 31 to the Chiefs 27. The Chiefs are still going to score points, man. Like I said at the top of the video, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. Chiefs are going to score. Question is, how much? And what are those difference makers? They're going to determine how much. My mind, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and I think all three of those guys, some of the best in the NFL, what they do, they could be the deciding factor there. Create chaos, create turnovers, give Justin Herbert enough time and opportunity to sprint ahead of Patrick Mahomes, and anything is possible. Will you guys let me know in the comment section what you think of, I guess, the breakdown of the game? Who your MVP on the offense and maybe the defense? If you guys want to give me two, let me know. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of Justin Herbert, Derwin James. And as well, let me know your score predictions for this game. It should be a good one, man. If you guys are still wondering how to watch this game, I think for Thursday night on Amazon, or on Thursday night primetime game specifically, Amazon Prime will be showing this game. If you guys are still wondering how to get set up for all your NFL content past that, if you're one of those, fantasy football players like me, you want Red Zone or whatever, definitely check out the link in the description for ExpressVPN. Get set up with NFL Game Pass. You're good for just this, or not just this game, but all the games going forward for the rest of the season. So make sure you guys are set up well ahead of time. But if you don't have a way to watch the game, at least for the Chargers this week, make sure you remember that it is on Amazon Prime. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you liked what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Watch out, Patrick Mahomes. We still hungry.